I was like, gang conference, what's this? And it was some youth conference, and it was like gospel rap music and holy hip hop and Christian rap and modern music. I didn't know nobody else was doing it. Yeah, I'd been doing it since 1989, but I backslid 2 times and went back into the secular industry. But each time I never knew no other artists that were really into, like, were recorded. I never heard nobody. I just met one guy who was another gospel rapper, and that was 1991 or 92. But I never knew there was an industry. So I said, I got to go there, and I got to take my CD with me. So I made like 20, 30 more copies of that CD, and I packed my truck and headed for Atlanta just for the weekend. But that weekend I knew that something was going to happen, and I went for that weekend, and I got up there to Atlanta, and and it was just weird. It was like I'm selling my CD right in the lobby. I sold like 20 copies. I made like $200, so $10. I made $200 right in their lobby, and I remember meeting Eddie Velez in that lobby, Pastor Eddie Velez in the lobby, and I met several other people, and I started camping out in the cafeteria area where the gym was at, and I didn't buy no boost. It was just that some t-shirt salesmen allowed me to set my equipment up, my production equipment up, the Yamaha RMX-1, and I would play my music to attract people to their booths, and I would just rap. Freestyle guys would come over, and that's why I met Gospel Gangsters. One of those guys came over, just was rapping over the beats. I met Fela Phil, who from New Orleans, whose sister was Mia X from No Limit Records, and he came over. And I didn't even know who they were. Later on, I would I would see Gospel Gangsters in videos of Kirk Franklin, and I read Fela Phil's testimony, and was like, I haven't heard from him since, but his I hope he didn't backslid. I pray this brother is still in Christ, you know what I'm saying? But Fela Phil's testimony was off the chain, and this was my introduction into the gospel rap industry, and I would come out of that situation. I spent the night in a hotel. I used the money to get a hotel room to stay the next night. And the next day, a brother borrowed we was in that cafeteria area, a brother named Junior borrowed I was still reading Source magazine, right up in there, getting it in. I didn't have a Bible. This was how I kept in contact with what was going on in the rap community. And my brother came and borrowed. I said, yeah, go ahead, thinking that Christians, everybody cool, And he didn't bring it back. It was like 5-6 hours later. I thought he stole it. And then finally he came. I was in line, and he came up to me and said, my pastor wants you to speak to you. I said, no problem. He wants to eat lunch with you. So I went and sat down to have lunch with him. And when I first saw this brother, when I looked at him, I saw a man with rings on every finger. He was dressed up in straight up the same clothing you see on pimps, and gator shoes, the whole 9, like an ex-convict, super pimp. And I thought it was the weed coming back on. I'm having a flashback or something. And I looked away, and my eyes like this, and when I looked back at him, he was conservatively dressed, regular suit, sports coat, 1 ring on his finger. And I just shook it off like, and we started talking. He heard what I had to say, what had happened to me, and he was like, well, if you had the opportunity to come to New York City, would you do it? I just said yes. And that was after the night before I just joined New Birth, Atlanta. I'd signed up to join the church, and I'd moved in my stuff to one of my frat brothers' houses, Pierre. He plays GE at Hampton University. And I moved into he was gonna let me stay there while I get situated, get a job, and I wasn't there but one night, and now I'm going to New York City. I packed up my truck, got ready, and the next night we met at a hotel room. Now we was up all day. Let me say this: Thursday. We was up all day Thursday. We left Thursday night at 11 o'clock. When I got to the hotel, I went to the hotel. The pastor was sitting in the hotel room, and there was a young lady sitting in the hotel room with the pastor. And the way her mannerism was, I knew something was wrong. I was like, that's not the way a young lady should be sitting with a man looking at her, looking in the room. So I just turned my head and went on about my business like Joseph. And when he saw something crazy, when that lady propositioned him wrongly, he ran, got out of there, lived to tell the story. But the pastor was looking at me the whole time, I guess seeing how I would react to the situation to see what he was dealing with. I don't know what was going on, but I just dipped and went and sat in my truck and waited. There was about 6 of them. They all packed into a van, and they loaded up my truck with all their t-shirts, and I got in my truck. Nobody got in the truck with me. I knew I was in trouble. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, nobody gonna help me drive all the way to New York? And we in Atlanta, Georgia? And I said, okay. I got myself together, put the gospel music on, put it in, get ready. We left from that hotel at about 10:30, 11, went to eat dinner. He paid for dinner and everything, because I only had $200 in my pocket to last me until either I got a job or whatever happened in New York. So I told him that, you know what I'm saying? So we eat dinner, then we get on the road. It's like 12, I forgot, it was late at night, and we end up on the road riding. Me and the brother driving that car, we raced all the way to New York City. That's how I stayed awake. We went from Atlanta to New York. We raced all night long and all day. All Friday we were driving. And when we would stop at a gas station or something, I would jump out of the car hyped, enthusiastic, because I wasn't going to let nobody believe that I was tired or anything. And they in their mind, I don't know what they was thinking, but in my mind, I was in that car praying and asking God to give me energy to get to New York City. And just listening to gospel all the way, gospel talk, gospel music, gospel whatever. It was on. I was on fire every time we stopped. That was weird. I think about it now, like, man, I never got sleepy. And we got to New York. We get to New York, and we've been on the road basically all Thursday night and all day Friday. We hit traffic about 3 o'clock going to Long Island. The pastor lived out in Long Island. The church was in St. Albans, Queens, or Jamaica, Queens, something like that. We get all the way out there. We get to the pastor's house, and nobody even asked me in this man's house to use the bathroom. But me, I knew it was game rules. I didn't say nothing. I just held the pee. Like, let me just sit still, see what's going on. So then they finally come out of there. They dress, they change clothes, take shower and all that, and we go to the church. So I climb in, and we sit outside the church, and I meet several other people from the church, and I get in the back of my van. I just sit there and wait and see what they're gonna do. And of course, we've been up all day, Thursday, and now it's Friday night. Friday, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and the guys are now talking about going to the movies. I'm like, going to a movie? So I'm like, wow. I said, no, I haven't washed in a day and a half. We left there Thursday, it's now Friday night. I gotta wash. They was like, well, you can go down in the basement and wash, and we're gonna, hook up. I said, all right. I went down there and washed up, got back up, we jumped in the truck. I met Elder Ron, they said, you're gonna be staying with Elder Ron. I was like, cool, the co-pastor of the church. So I'm gonna stay with Elder Ron, and we go to this movie. We get to the movie. Before we get to the movie, we stop at the Chinese restaurant. The pastor set it out for everybody. Everybody got their bags to go. Got the Chinese food. Then we go to the movie theater. We get to the movie theater. It was about 15 of us. We walked right through. We didn't pay for nothing. I don't know if they had to hook up or whatever, but I'm paying attention like, whoa, what's this? A gang? They got the hook up everywhere we go. Boom, we go straight into the movie and we sit down. And I finally sit down in that dark theater. Everybody, we eating Chinese food. We killing our food. And we finish our Chinese food, and now the movie's gonna start. And I'm like, yeah, they're about to see something, something that's cool and edifying. I don't know what it is, I'm just going to the movie theater. And then the movie starts. The movie is the Fast and Furious. I was like, what kind of church am I in? I didn't get through the first 5 minutes of Fast and Furious, and I went straight to sleep. When I woke up, the movie was over, and it was going on. I got a great nap. We got in the car, we go to Elder Ron's house, and I'm 35 years old. Elder Ron might be a year older than me, 36. Elder Ron has 2 sons, about 14 and 15 years old. and he has a 2-story house in Jamaica, Queens, right by Greater Island AME Church. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to get in my room. I know I'm gonna stay. I'm about to do this music up in New York City with this church and everything. It's about to be on and popping. And he says, we walk in the house. He says, you're gonna be staying right here. This man tells me I'm about to be living on his couch in his living room. Right then, I knew it was a problem. And what I did was, in my head, it was like, either he said you don't have enough money to get back home for one thing, but the bottom line is you gotta humble yourself, swallow your pride, put your clothes over there, just go to sleep in that man's living room. He's offering you a place to stay while you do what you do in New York City. So I swallowed my pride, and that was my home for the next 3 months, on a man's couch. But little did I know, this man was basically a walking concordance. He was a wealth of knowledge and information, biblical knowledge. He was a prayed up man. And he had every tape, gospel preachers and everything. So this was my seminary school, not basically church, in this man's house, just talking to him and learning from him. And he would just give me books like, here, read this. And I would just read it, read this, read it. And then he'd give me videos to watch. And I learned from some of the best preachers of the day. I was in seminary school, and they gave me my first Bible, a little black King James Bible that was highlighted from the front to the back. And this was the beginning of my receiving knowledge in the written Word of God. And at that church, that first week, I met a sound man. They had a guy who'd help them with sound. His name was Sean Slaughter. And me and Sean listened to some of the tracks I did, and we did a song, one of his songs over one of the tracks I did, and I performed to that day at Destiny Worship Center for the youth. And that's how we first met, and we hit it off. And that was how I got started with Destiny Worship Center and with the music industry, the gospel music industry in New York City. I would meet a lot of people through Sean Slaughter. And that's the end of the history of gospel rap, or the history of rap, according to Brother